moments I've been Googling you. I think
wow,
I came
stalking me.
I came across like this person named Simone Marie Butler or something, and then I'm looking at this page. I'm like, I'm fairly certain this is not her. I'm pretty sure she's not a rock bassist from England. And
Close, but not quite.
no, but then like I think also I found your Facebook page, and I'm like, oh, what? Oh, she's from Connecticut. Okay, well that makes sense. But also, you're currently a student at the Hartt School at the University of Hartford.
Yes,
right?
I am a graduate student.
In the
from what
masters in
I
jazz
listen
studies?
to, you go to Hartt as well, right?
Yes and no.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm a student at the University of Hartford,
Okay.
and I'm sort of not in the Hartt School because I'm not majoring in music, but I am trying to minor. So you could say I'm kind of half in the Hartt School.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
And I think through like internet stalking you, I also found out we have a mutual friend of the show and two-time previous guest, Andrew Wilcox, the jazz pianist.
Yes, he is a great pianist. He would accompany me in my vocal lessons last year before he graduated, and we actually he asked me to do one gig with him last year, or it was this year. It was right before COVID hit. So we did a gig together once, which was fun. He's a great person to work with.
Yeah, he is. Now, unfortunately, I haven't been able gotten the opportunity to play with him because I'm not, say, a jazz musician. But like, I had him once on the podcast last spring, and we had a great talk. It was great because we were in person. And then just not too long ago, I had him on again. But we, of course, that first one we did was right before the pandemic hit. And then this time around, of course, we had to do it remotely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this COVID thing is interesting. I feel like it's killing a lot of the fun for stuff, for school, for performances. I work in a restaurant too, and just working with a mask all day is so tedious, and it's very frustrating. But you gotta keep going. You can't just let it stop you.
Yeah, and in Andrew's case, he's attending graduate school at UMass Amherst, mm-hmm. but he's still living in Hartford, so he can like gig.
Yeah, my one of my professors was telling me, because Andrew was actually supposed to be the pianist for my recital as well last year that got canceled. Well, last semester that got canceled because of COVID. And my professor was telling me that this year, like, Andrew can still play because he's still living in Hartford, which I actually didn't know about. So
yeah, apparently he school for him at UMass Amherst is completely online. Even though he's like a TA and stuff. So I suppose it makes sense for him to stay in Hartford, attend school online, and still gig.
Yeah. I mean, I have pretty much all my classes online except for one class that I go in for, and then I have a rehearsal that I go in for. But Hartt is doing this thing with rehearsals now where they only have them do them for 45 minutes. And it's kind of like, well, what's the difference between rehearsing for 45 minutes and rehearsing for an hour, Like, whether, like, you're exposed to it, like, after the 45 minutes or, like, after, like, rehearsing for an hour, like, you're still exposed to the virus,
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, well, so an hour would have been in the quote-unquote normal time you'd be rehearsing for?
Well, actually, it's supposed to be 2 hours, so it's really cut back. And like, everyone is wearing these uncomfortable masks for the whole rehearsal. I have to sing with a mask on. It's like, and they gave me these vocal masks to wear, but that thing looks ridiculous on me. And everyone in the band afterwards was like, you can never wear that mask again because we can't take you seriously. Because I feel like Donald Duck. It's like a beak. And then I'm singing and I don't know where to put the mic. I'm like, do I hold it like closer to my nose? Do I hold it like underneath, like to get like my voice? And it's just, it's crazy, man.
I'd be like, I'll be in Hartt and walking by rooms. I see people rehearsing. It's like, and they're singing, and I see that mask on, and it's like, what the hell is that?
Oh my God, it is the most obnoxious thing. And so I received mine, and then the week after I had my voice lesson, and my voice teacher's like, well, where's your vocal mask? And I said, listen, I can't wear that. I can't take myself seriously in that thing. That thing is crazy.
It's weird. Like it for all those people who are like vocalists, or they play instruments that require embouchure, like, flutes, reed instruments and stuff. It's like, I mean, sure, and especially for like clarinets or saxophones and stuff. It's like, we get what you're trying to do, but it's still like a goddamn saxophone. There's still gonna be like saliva coming out of all the holes down the instrument. You know what I mean?
All the wind players have like these little like masks with zippers. I'm like, who thought of this? And I mean, it's funny because the saxophonist that's in our ensemble, he calls it a gimp.
Somewhere it makes me think there was some guy who developed like a mask with a zipper specifically for musicians, but then all his friends made fun of him, like, that's for like gimps. But now he's the one laughing because he made all the money for all these people who have to play like wind instruments that need a mask or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I had to watch this performance for one of my classes and report on it. And it was this performance that they did online. It was pretty much in the middle of COVID. It was this string quartet. And I like report in my paper, like, it was so weird to watch all these people getting into the Stravinsky piece wearing these red masks. Like you can't see their expression, you just see their eyes. It was like probably one of the weirdest things I've ever watched, and I was like, is this really like the future of music, watching people perform in masks?
Yeah, and it also makes you think about, like, say, if like theater ever gets back into it, are the actors supposed to wear masks on stage? Part of like acting is your face.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy, like, when I do the few gigs that I've been doing, I don't have to wear a mask when I perform. And I actually had my first indoor gig last Friday, and I was so happy that he didn't make me wear a mask or anything. But even like restaurants where I perform, it's like half of the audience that you would normally get. And I mean, working in the restaurant, you get calls from people and they're like, hey, like, we want to make a reservation to sit outside, but if it rains, we're not going to sit inside. So it's like a weird new thing. And even like some of the restaurants where I did perform outside, they're closing up their patios and they're like, yeah, sorry, like, we don't know if we're doing gigs inside. So it's a weird thing to think about what like the winter is going to be like too for musicians.
Oh, that's that's gonna be bad. Like, I mean, at least at this moment, like, the having gigs outside, it makes sense and it's doable and it works. Like, I just went to last week or the previous week, I went to Andrew Wilcox's first real gig since March. Oh, wow. Where he played outside of this place in Hartford, and there were people sitting on a lawn, and of course they're distanced and whatever, and they're just playing on the back, this like little flat platform made out of concrete that was just there. It was like, oh yeah, that works, that totally works. But then, as we're nearing winter, it's like, what's going to happen then?
Yeah, it's a scary thing. I mean, even like all the jazz bars that I would go to in the city and stuff are still closed. I mean, one of them just reopened, but they're only doing performances during the day. Like, I think their last hit that they have is at 5:00, and then that's it. They're closing. And that bar was Small's Jazz Club. It's pretty small inside. It's like a little like hole in the wall, and like everyone is like up against each other. So I'm wondering, like, are they gonna do like half capacity? Like, they got to do something, because like that is like such a small bar, and like everyone is on top of each other.
Yeah, and I mean, you jazz shows out in the snow. That will work.
Well, that's like walking on campus. You see like the choir people practicing outside, and I just said something to one of my friends yesterday. Like, are they going to keep them outside in the wintertime, or are they going to be out here singing in their jackets as the snow is falling down? Like, what are they going to do in the wintertime?
They'll keep the tent up, and then they'll have space heaters around the tent so that like someone playing a double bass their instrument doesn't explode or something.
Yeah, it's such a weird world today with this COVID, and I've a lot of people around me feel like it's just going to get worse in the wintertime since we're all going to be stuck inside.
Yeah, I mean, at least like at the University of Hartford, the thing they're doing is when everyone goes home for Thanksgiving break, they'll stay home until spring.
Yeah, that's what people were telling me, that they're planning on doing all remote by Thanksgiving, all remote classes.
Which, I don't know. There's some classes where it's not. That's really not. I mean, like a lot, especially like lots of music classes where it makes sense, like for your private lessons and stuff. It just makes more sense to be in person, and I feel like going completely remote, even for like that amount of time, it's gonna be weird, and it's gonna diminish the quality of education, and it's being diminished now.
I tell people now, like, I feel like I'm getting my master's degree so much easier, like a walk in the park, compared to other people who have gone for their master's degree before and have had to like do all these things in person. We're able to, like, I have a recital last year, which was a requirement. And at first they were just going to have us go in and sing our songs with the background tracks for our jazz director. And then the jazz director ended up saying, like, no, we're not going to do this because it just defeats the purpose of having a recital. Like, a recital is a celebratory event where like people come and they listen to you and hear all the hard work that you've done for the year. So he ended up just waiving that. And I don't even know what's going to happen this year with recitals, if we're going to do like Zoom stuff with friends and family. But like, even my ensemble, we're just recording a video to send to like our family and friends. And I mean, I have a performance-based studies or major, and it just really sucks to have all these classes online. It just defeats the fun of it, you know?
Yeah, I remember Andrew was telling me last year about how like he didn't get to do his recital, and even the people I knew who were still doing recitals were doing like making videos, doing it remotely, and that really sucks for like ensembles, because the point is to have you like be with your ensemble playing and like feeding off each other, the energy of playing together.
Right.
And it's literally not a thing that can be done remotely, you know.
Right. Yeah, it really sucks. I mean, I'm happy this is my last year, so like after this, like I have my master's and it's over with, but I mean, it just sucks. I just feel like I could have worked so much harder to get it.
Yeah, and at least like I'm in undergrad right now, and it's not quite what it should be. And I've always commuted to school, and right now, I mean, sure, it's great. I only have to go to campus one day a week, but you know, but then I'm like sleeping in all the time. I'm like, I don't want to do. You would think because I'm still at home for 90% of the time, I would have quote unquote more time to do my things. And it's like, no, I don't feel like doing any of this because it feels weird.
I mean, all my classes have been giving me, it's like they have to make up for the fact that they're online classes. So it's like they're giving you more work to do to compensate for that. And I never want to do it ever. It's such a tedious task. And even last semester, at the end of the semester when they did classes online, it was just kind of like, well, why am I doing this? Like, it's like, it was almost like I was teaching myself all the stuff that the professors couldn't teach in person. Yeah, I'm not a fan of all this online stuff. Like, even live streams, a couple of my friends have done like live stream performances, and they're just not the same. You're not feeding off the audience, and it must be the most awkward thing to finish a song and hear silence when you know you're doing a performance. Like, there's no clapping, nothing. It's just like if you're
people
doing a
are
Zoom
sending
meeting,
you the like clap emojis through the chat.
and you just see like all these little faces on your computer just like watching you, but like you don't get anything for
and
performing.
then they're clapping like this, but they're not near their microphone. Yeah.
Or they're muted, so you can't hear them. You just see their hands going. Like, I can't do that. And like, people have suggested it to me, and I'm just like, I'm not about the live stream performances. They're just not the same.
No. Yeah, it's I suppose. Well, what kind of classes are you taking if you're a graduate student?
This semester is a weird semester because I'm taking two classical based classes, not because I chose to, but more because I have to. I had this pro seminar in music history that I was supposed to take my first year, and the professor that I had was a lot. he was like, yeah, we just have to write like a short 30-page paper at the end. And I was like, a short 30-page paper? I don't know who calls that short.
Dude, I'm majoring in English. I haven't had to write anything that long.
Oh, this semester is like all writing. Like, I have analysis of contemporary music, which I thought, well, me and like the 6 or 7 other jazz studies master students, we kind of all stick together. So three of us are in that class, and it's just wild. It's like, it's definitely not what we expected. It's these really like obscure modern classical pieces that we have to talk about, and these modern composers. And don't get me wrong, like, I appreciate what they do and how they compose. It's definitely like a masterpiece, but it's just not my style. It's a lot different from studying jazz. And the other students there are all studying classical music, so it's easy for them, but it's a lot different for like jazz people who aren't really like looking at this stuff every day.
When they say modern composers, do they mean like Stravinsky, Shostakovich, or do you mean like actually up to date, like now?
I mean, Messiaen, or I think that's his name, Messiaen, and we did a little bit of Stravinsky, Elliott Carter, but I even think he's a little older, and Debussy. Like, I guess they're modern in a sense, but a lot of them aren't living today. Yeah. They're like 80s and 90s types of composers.
Okay, maybe it'll throw in the Gershwin. So, because I mean, he did classical music too.
Yeah, I mean, we have to do this project at the end where we like present a composer and his work and analyze it. And the other thing is, it's analyzing like in jazz music is not analyzing in this class. Like, this class, it's taking the music and reducing it down to numbers. Like, and I am terrible at math, first off, and just looking at the music and being like, all right, well, this is the numerical form of the music, is just like, why would anyone want to do that? Why does anyone want to look at all these numbers for music and be like, all right, this makes so much more sense now?
Oh no, like, I'll tell you this, like, even though people may look at me, they say, oh, Benson's a musician and he's so gifted. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I started playing music when I was 17, and the only reason I seem impressive at all is because I put in a lot of work. But part of like what interested me in music was because it was basically, or at least I guess maybe like because what drew me to learning a lot about music theory, like to the point where I learned way too much, way too fast, because it was just basically math to me. And like like I learned so much I couldn't actually apply it to what I was playing because I was learning open chords on guitar, and it was like that. My mind was like miles ahead past like what my fingers could do, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, jazz, like looking at it in different ways and like transcribing solos and stuff was super interesting to me to see like how the musicians thought. I mean, and you can sit there and be like, all right, well, here, like they were trying to play like the C Mixolydian scale because of this chord progression or stuff like that. And I mean, I don't think like the musicians were sitting there being like, all right, I'm going to play like a C Mixolydian here, but it's definitely interesting to see kind of where their thoughts were in that sense and kind of seeing like the evolution of not just jazz music, but all music over time, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like the analysis has its place because in the end, like there's a Nirvana song where he does an encircling kind of thing, which is a jazz technique, and of course I'm pretty sure we all know that Kurt Cobain didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
But the point is, we know what it is. We can see that was a clever thing to do, even though he probably wasn't aware of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and see what I wonder is, like obviously like when I write songs, it's not like I'm thinking like, oh, I'm going to play this chord in order to like really like paint what I'm singing. And like, like people do that today where like they like analyze the music and they think, all right, well they did this because like they wanted it to sound like this. And I'm just like wondering like one day if someone ever analyzes my music, like what they're going to find, because I really don't have like any set thing. It's just kind of like, this is what I want to write about. These are the chords I came up with, and that's about it.
Yeah, I there's you've probably heard of this about how like in English class, the like people analyzing the writing to death is like, was that really the author's intention? Like, are you reading too much into it? But I think again, it's I feel like many like English professors would agree with me that there's no such thing as reading too much into it. It's even if they weren't consciously or intentionally trying to do like this one thing, you can still read it that way as if they were. Maybe they were subconsciously doing it because like the craft, they're so entrenched in the craft that they were subconsciously doing that thing, and then we as the people analyzing it, it makes sense to us. It's what matters is we can see that was a thing, and that they did it even if they didn't mean to.
Yeah, and I think it's super interesting to like grab different perspectives on like books that you read or songs that you write or songs that people write that you listen to, and kind of trying to see like what they were trying to get and like what they were thinking about. But I mean, I definitely don't think any analysis is the end all for any piece of art, whether it's painting, book, or music.
Yeah, and I always think about like the Beatles and how, of course, they were not trained musicians and they didn't go to school for anything, but they were so proficient, attuned. They like when I hear stuff written by Paul McCartney and he like throws this thing like, oh, there's lots of contrary motion. He used the dominant seventh chord right at the right place. It's like he probably he didn't have terms to apply to whatever he was doing, but like his ear was good enough that he knew what he wanted, he felt it, and he was like, okay, put that there. And it just means he's he's able to do the same things as like other people, other trained, educated people or whatever,
And I think like regarding the Beatles, like they wrote so simplistically, but it was still great music. Like if like just like looking at the chord progressions that you see in a lot of their music, it's not like they're doing like these crazy chord progressions. I mean, their lyrics were great lyrics, and like their songs are still great today. And I feel like a lot of artists like try so hard today, like to do these crazy things and like all that, but like I feel like you don't always need that in music, you know?
No, not necessarily. And at least in the case of the Beatles, sure, like the early stuff, they were pop songs. They were pop songs.
Oh yeah.
A pop song is a pop song is a pop song. But you're still like the rare moment where like, oh, they throw in an augmented chord and whatever, and like there's that's a particularly cool kind of key change. Um, but I think like at least towards like the middle where they really started to like experiment and do weird stuff, that's where it gets really interesting. But then, at least in terms of like sonics and like recording and whatever. But then there are still the ones that are just like, oh, that just sounds like a great song. But like they were doing like actually interesting like progressions, like say the George Harrison tune something.
Yeah.
It's it just sounds like we're kind of standardy kind of love song. He was thinking about Ray Charles when he was writing that, but it's like lots of secondary dominance, a key change, some chromatic bits, and it's like that's and then the guitar solo where he plays the changes so well on a progression that's actually, when you think about it, is kind of weird. They were still proficient enough that they could do all those things.
Right. And I took a sound recording class in my undergraduate for a year. It was like a year-long class. And it's like super interesting to see all that you can do just in sound recording today. Like all the instruments you can just find in your library, whether you use GarageBand or any of the other recording devices that people use today. It's crazy to see how much you could do. I mean, I created an entire piece on my laptop for the class, and it had like a sax sound that I used, and I just used my keyboard that I plugged into my laptop and recorded it, and like that was it. And it was like I didn't like sit there and like have to actually do anything, just like sit there and think what I wanted to write and then just put it in my computer. It's like crazy what people can do today with their computers to make music.
Yeah. And where'd you go for undergrad?
I went to Hofstra University, which is on Long Island.
Yeah. I've heard about Hofstra, and I know, or not, I don't know people, but I know a lot of like through, like say I know the film director Francis Ford Coppola went to Hofstra, and like there seems a lot of like kind of big famous people went to Hofstra University, or at least near it, and I will, although I don't see too many like musicians that come out of there. So how would you describe your experience in the music program there?
I had a really good experience at Hofstra in their music department. My primary study was jazz and commercial music, and I studied voice, and I studied piano for 3 years there. It was a great experience. I had professors who really care about you and want to see you excel. My jazz advisor, who was the director of the department, was a great guy. His name was Dave Lalama, and he was really tough on you, but at the end of the day, he just wanted you to be a better musician. And all the classes, I mean, the first 2 years, you're required to take ear training classes and theory classes, no matter what part of the music department you are. And, even though I sat there in the moment, I'm like, these classes really suck. They helped me be a better musician. I mean, ear training really helped me. I have better ears now. Theory, I mean, don't use it as much, but I'm still happy that I had it. And then my last 2 years were mostly my jazz classes, jazz and commercial classes, even though it was more of a jazz dominant department. So I took like jazz arranging, improvisation class for a year, and a songwriting class, which actually was what kind of kickstarted my start of writing my own songs, just because it was like I discovered like that I could write songs and that they actually could sound good. So I had a really great time at Hofstra, and I made a lot of lifetime friends. I still talk to some of my professors, so it definitely don't regret going there.
And was it always the plan to go to grad school for music?
No, not at all. So I had a job at Hofstra where I was working in the tutoring department for all classes, not just music. And I was just like a undergraduate student who was like helping out like with paperwork and small things like that. Even though most days I would just go in and sit there for 3 hours and do my homework. So my thought was they had a graduate assistantship where if you had a job there as a grad student, they covered your entire tuition. And I was like, oh, this is great. I've worked here for 4 years. I can get a job here. I can go to grad school and I'll have my tuition paid for. Well, I didn't get the job. And I was so bummed out. I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And, and my plan was I wasn't going to go there to grad school for music because they didn't really have a program that I was interested in. They only had music education. So I did have a minor in psychology. So I thought, well, I'll do something in psych, whether it's like social work or there was marriage therapy. There was all different types of things that I really considered. And, I did apply and get into the actual program for, I believe it was social work. But then because I didn't get the job, I was like, Hofstra's an expensive school. I'm not going to pay all this money towards tuition if it's not, I already took enough out in student loans and all that. So, my mom was just kind of like, well, why don't you like apply to different schools for like a master's in music? And I was like, no, I don't want to owe more money and like take more loans out and just dig myself a bigger hole. So I thought about it because then I was starting to get worried, like, what the heck am I going to do when I graduate in a couple months? So I decided to just go out on a whim and apply to a couple schools. And Hartt was probably the one like I really like went out for, even though it was later in the time when I was auditioning and all that. So I was like, I'm probably not going to get in. And then I called them and they were like, yeah, like just so you know, you're more than welcome to audition, but we don't have any money left to give people. So good luck. So I was like, all right. So I ended up sending in videos for my auditions since I was still in New York at the time. And that was like another thing I was like, I'm not going to get in. They're going to see these videos. It's not as good as seeing someone in person. It's going to be like meh. But so then I ended up getting accepted into the jazz program and I ended up being offered a scholarship. So, it was a no-brainer. I'm from Connecticut. I just commute there and I don't have to pay for housing or anything. So, I figured like might as well take the opportunity while it's there.
Yeah. And you're from Wolcott or?
Yes.
Okay. It's interesting to hear about like people I meet at university who are Connecticut natives who might like stray away, like they might have gone to a different school for undergrad or whatever, but then they end up transferring and they're like, I really like Hartford and it's like right nearby. And then like even people who live in West Hartford who do that. And it's and even for people who end up say getting an advanced degree at University of Hartford, or even people who get their advanced degrees and then end up teaching there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the path that I'm on now is definitely not where I expect it to be. And I think to myself, everything happens for a reason. In the moment, I was super bummed that I didn't get the job and I couldn't continue my education at Hofstra. But, I'm really happy. I really appreciate the program that they have going at Hartt for jazz performers. And I actually had applied to Hartt for my undergrad, but it was actually in theater instead of music. And that was also another factor in my head. Like I didn't get in for undergrad. Like what if I don't get in for grad school? But I think they have really great professors there who are still in the business today and in the performing aspect. And I'm really grateful to have taken so much of their knowledge already in like just my first year and a quarter. So I'm really, and you know what? Coming back to Connecticut, even though that was the last thing I wanted to do, because definitely in my undergrad, I was like, I need to get out of Connecticut. Like, Wonkit is such a small town, and I was like, this isn't where I want to be. But you know what? I met Tracy by coming back to Connecticut, and I'm getting more gigs. I feel like I'm hopefully getting more established in Connecticut, just like releasing my album and everything. So I'm happy everything turned out the way it is.
Yeah. And do you have any intention to like get more degrees in music, like say a DMA?
That's definitely a thought that's popped into my head. Going and getting a DMA or something and continuing my education. Because I do think about, I do teach piano to kids now and voice. So it is a thought, like if I want to continue teaching as well in my future. But the thing is, there's no jazz programs in Connecticut that do DMA programs for it. I would have to go out of state. And then it's the consideration of, do I want to keep with jazz? Should I try for like some sort of like music education thing? So it's definitely a thought. I'm definitely not opposed to continuing my education somewhere.
Yeah, I think because I'm not majoring in music, so it's definitely not in the cards for me. But I always I'm so interested in like theory and trying to see where the outer edges of where music goes, that like I think in a different world where like I was a better musician and like actually studied formally, a DMA would be an interesting thing to do, like really like put in the work and the research to like dig into what music could mean, where it could really go, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and like that's a thing too. Like I feel like I've dug so much into jazz, studying it for 4 years in my undergrad and then for another 2 now. It's like, do I want to keep going for jazz, or do I want to like see if I could like branch off of that and do something else? Like I've been studying jazz voice for 6 years, so it's like, do I want to keep doing that? Do I want to try like branching off and doing something else so that I could expand my knowledge more? Yeah, it's definitely.
Well, I mean, it seems like you have, because you just put out a record.
Yeah. My record definitely has jazz influences in it. But I wouldn't listen to it and say, "Oh wow, this is jazz music."
Yeah, because like I listened to it a few times in preparation to talk to you, and I was like, oh, she's a jazz vocalist. Let's see what this is. Oh, this isn't really a jazz album. It's just like, a pop record.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely one of the big things that I took away from my songwriting class, that my professor was obviously a jazz person, but we would come with songs that we wrote that weren't jazz. And one of my songs off my record is actually from that class. And he always told me, you don't always have to use the same chords, because I would come in with like 5 chords, 1 chords, 4 chords, and he's like, yeah, this is like good and all, but like you should strive to like make it sound better by adding like different colors to it. And that's kind of how I write now. And I feel like I'll like think in jazz terms, like, all right, this is like a 5 chord. What if I do like a tritone sub here and see if it works? Like I'll do like different ideas, but I definitely don't write for jazz. I think I kind of want to be more like myself. Like, this is
right.
Simone.
Yeah, I said before I'm not really a jazz musician. But I should clarify that I try to play jazz. And I also try to write things, and I think back when I first started playing, I really wanted to stray away from like guy with an acoustic guitar who just writes stuff in like G and stuff. And because I especially since like I'm not a singer, I'm not a vocalist at all. So I figured, well, if I can't sing, that means if I'm playing guitar, that's my primary instrument, I have to be really interesting on guitar. And if I do write stuff it has to be not just open chords. And I really wanted it to be interesting. So I figured, I'll obsess over guitar and try to like put cool stuff together. And the way I think about it is, like say if I do end up writing something that seems a little bit simple, I'll spice it up with a cool chord change there, and like, but if like, oh, maybe that section will be simple-ish, but then like the B section will, like weird key change, lots of move like harmonic movement and stuff, and like weird extensions. It's like that will compensate for the simplisticness of this earlier part or something like that.
Yeah, I definitely feel with that. When I write, it's always like, well, like what upper tones can I put in this chord to make it sound like not just like a C chord. And there were times in the recording process when the person who recorded me, Tracy, he would play some instruments in my tracks, and he would be like, all right, so like, well, what key are we in here, Simone? And I'd be like, man, it kind of seems like E flat major, but you could also say it's not E flat major. And I think he appreciated the fact that it wasn't just like always like a straightforward with my writing. He definitely had to take a minute to determine a lot of my chords and play them, which I think confused him, but he appreciated having to sit there and learn my songs,
Yeah, and when you're writing stuff, do you ever find yourself falling back on like the standard form, like AABA, because like you've spent so much time studying like jazz standards? Do you think you find yourself kind of like it's like so ingrained in you that like I'm writing AABAs, is just because that's like that's something you're used to?
I mean, I've definitely like thought in my head like I would love to write the standard like AABA form. I haven't done it on this album, but it's definitely been a thought in my head. Like, I wonder what it would be like if I wrote a song in AABA, or what if I wrote like a 12-bar blues or something like that. It's definitely something that I want to do in my future writing, but I haven't done it yet. But it's definitely been like a thought.
Because I myself, because I want to not sound so basic pop songwriter, the first few things I've written they fell out as standards, as like not as in that form AABA, and because I thought, well, I mean, all those songs, those jazz standards, they sound like love songs because they are, but they sound not modern pop love songs. They sound much better to me. I'm like, definitely it's because of the harmony. And is it also because of this form and like the way, because it's swung a little bit. I'm like, maybe I'll try to write something like that, and then it falls out. I'm like, okay, I'm comfortable with this because it's like a math equation. I'm like, oh, fit it in 8 bars and then repeat it again, but just change the lyrics a bit, and then then it gets really interesting because you have the B section and you get to play around a bit,
Yeah. I definitely like appreciate how they wrote standards. I mean, just reading the lyrics, they always like just flow. The words just flow together so easily, and I really try to do that in my writing lyrically. I know I'm definitely not there yet, but if you just like read the lyrics for different songs back then, like they just flowed so simplistically, and I feel like it's definitely something a lot of people who write today should strive for. You don't have to come up with these complex lyrics. I mean, just like go reading like My Funny Valentine or something like that. The lyrics are pretty like simple, like they're not really going out of their way. It's just like the way they just like flow. It's like just how the person is feeling, and they just sound so good.
Yeah, there's sometimes like I'll be like in like record stores and I'll find like random little things made by like local people. Okay, well, let's see what this is. But then, and it sounds well recorded and whatever. It's got like lots of cool instruments, and it sounds fine, but it's like it seems like maybe this is it might not be, but I hear it mostly in like the folky kind of singer songwriter people who it's like they spent so much time trying to craft lyrics that sound like sentimental and folky that they forgot to write a melody, and it's like this sounds kind of boring.
Yeah. It's hard. I really don't like listen to the radio much, just because like those songs don't really like appeal to me. I feel like the words are like everything's like hot and steamy and like like I love Lady Gaga. She's definitely one of my idols, but I Want Your Stupid Love. I mean, come on.
And I don't know, even, and then there are the people, and then sometimes I listen to other people who it seems like they're trying to fit too many syllables inside a line, and also like the words they chose, the stresses fall weird, and it's like I feel like and some of these people like studied music, like they went to school for music. I'm like, maybe you should have not studied music and like studied English so you can work this out.
Well, yeah, I mean, I always learned like you should write a melody with a lyric on how you would say it. So like an exercise that we would do is we would like say a sentence, and it was kind of determining, all right, like where are the commas in the sentence, where is the like emphasis in the sentence, and then writing based off of that. I mean, if like you're writing a song and I feel like if what you're singing doesn't sound like how you would say it, then it's not going to come out right.
No, it's not. Like when you think about all the people who wrote standards and stuff, like the lyricists, a lot of people think like lyricists, but dude, anyone can write lyrics. Come on. But like, they still had to like really think through the words they would write, and like they might have not have been like writers in the sense of like they went to school and studied English or whatever, but like they still had like they were musical, and that musicality extended to the language so that they could hear like, well, it doesn't sound right if I use that word, but here's another word with the same amount of syllables, but the stress is in different places, and that one works really well because of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you have to think like a lot of the standards were originally just instrumental pieces, and they didn't write the lyrics until later. So you got to think like those lyricists have to create lyrics that not only like sound well together, but also don't really have to construe the melody of the song.
Yeah, and there's also when you think about like these songs, the reason that they're still popular, the reason like there's a tradition built upon it is because these people worked really hard to write them, and they knew what they were doing. It's a standardized form, and you had real people who like knew music and knew what they were doing, and especially in terms of like they were writing programmatic music. All these jazz standards, they come from musical theater, and they had to write the music and the lyrics in a way that like commented, that gave subtext to the whatever show they were writing for.
Yeah, and I've even thought about coming out with or like recording an album that's just based on that's just doing standards. I mean, I know it's definitely something to reach for, thinking about like all like the instrumentalists and all that I'd want to have in the album, but I mean just like releasing an album to appreciate standards,
Yeah, it seems like everyone's doing that now. Like James Taylor and Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell did for I think a while back, and like at least and if you're, I mean, you've studied jazz music for so long, it makes sense to do, And do you right now name 3 standards you would want on a record like this?
Oh, jeez. So the other issue with this is I like bebop a lot.
Oh god.
I'm one of those.
Oh god.
Like and
so you want this record to be inaccessible? Yes.
So I like a lot of bebop tunes, unfortunately. So I like all the difficult things. So I mean, the songs that I'm learning now, well, okay, so let's start off. Like, my recital was pretty much all bebop. Like, I was doing like Coltrane's Resolution. I was doing the Peacocks, which is like this ballad that is interesting. Like, you have like these chords being played in the piano and you're singing pretty much like something totally different. It was probably one of the most difficult songs I've learned. I mean, I was also doing standards like A Sunday Kind of Love, stuff like that. But I like learning songs that aren't usually sung by jazz artists. Like, there's this album that aren't usually sung vocally for jazz singers. Like, there's an album that came out by this vocalist, Mary Stalling, songs that should be sung, and she does all these songs, instrumental songs that were never sung. Like, you have Blue Monk. I'm pretty sure she did like Stolen Moments, which was another one that was really never sung. So I feel like I want to do something like that, like something that people would be like, all right, like she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, that sounds like it's like not the mainstreamy kind of
like
the stuff you would hear on a Starbucks CD.
Yeah, like my parents listen to jazz now a lot just because like I've gotten them into it, and like they like the Frank Sinatra and Tony Bennett, all the big band stuff. And my mom's always like, "Oh, you should learn that song Somewhere Beyond the Sea," or like My Funny Valentine, or all these like songs that I feel like I learned when I was just starting off with jazz. And it's like, all right, like those are the songs that everybody sings,
Yeah. And I myself have a complicated relationship with bebop because because I remember like back when I was getting into jazz, I'm like, I'll pick up this Miles Davis record. Oh, it sounds good. It was kind of blue. I'm like, yeah, this is great. And then like people be like, no, you gotta check out this. It's like Giant Steps or like this Charlie Parker record. And I'm like, okay, I'll put it on. Just I kind of gloss over. I'm like, I don't think I get it.
Yeah, bebop's I mean, I just like its complexity. I mean, knowing that a lot of these melodies just came from the instrumentalists improvising. Like, it's like an improvised melody that they decided one day was going to be the main melody for the song. And you might sit there and be like, all right, well then they were pretty much just like making shit up. But I mean, they chose like melodies that still stand today, and I mean, like, people have taken them and written lyrics to them. And it's also all on what you do with it. Like, sitting there, like there was this one tune that this artist Mary Stallings did, Prelude to a Kiss, which is a Duke Ellington tune that is a ballad. She took it and sped it up. It's like a up-tempo swing, and it's like, where did this come from? But it's so creative because you're so used to hearing it as like this beautiful ballad.
Yeah, and I think since like I first started getting in jazz, I'm now listening more to lots of like improvisational music that features improvisation, like bluegrass and stuff, and like that's fun. I listen to that and it's fun. Yeah. And I remember hearing once someone describing bebop to me, like it's like they're having a conversation, but instead of talking, they bop. I'm like, okay. Okay, and like I started connecting it back to like stuff like bluegrass. I'm like, okay, I get what it means, and I think I have an in now to like a framework by which to listen to bebop and try to digest it,
Yeah, I mean, it definitely takes a special ear to. I feel like it takes a special ear to listen to bebop, and I feel like the true jazz cats can sit there and like listen to it. Like, not a lot. I feel like not a lot of people can just like sit down and listen to Monk because of his like all his spatialness in his songs, and but I mean, like he's a genius at what he did. But like same thing with Coltrane, like giant steps is freaking crazy. And I remember I had to try to improvise to that, and
Oh
I
God.
sounded terrible. I sounded absolutely terrible. And there's all like, it was my improvisation class, and there's all like these instrumentalists, like a guitar player, bass player, sax player, and then there's me, the vocalist, trying to like listen to the changes and like improvise based on that, and it just did not work. Everyone else like was able like to get through it and like sound decent. Well,
Yeah.
then there's me who's like, ah.
Oh man. There's I mean, that's a musician's kind of music. They're like the entire genre of bebop is basically jazz etudes, and
Yeah.
it like, even though I say I try to play jazz, I know I'm never gonna play like bebop, so I haven't bothered learning any of those songs.
Yeah, it definitely you can't just like sit down and take like 5 minutes to learn it. It definitely takes like a couple days, maybe a week or two to like really like get that melody. And especially singing it, it's really like finding the note. And when you have like these crazy chords that don't always have the melody in them, and it's definitely harder to like really like reach and find that note. It's definitely something that you really got to concentrate and like put your mind to.
Yeah, so like it's hard enough for me trying to learn like the mainstreamy white bread kind of standards, and like, but also it's also like when I'm trying to learn songs to play, like I want to connect to them as songs. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the reason I would want to learn them is because I like listening to them, because I like them as songs. And so, like, all the bebop compositions, I'm like, yeah, I listen to this and I kind of can't connect to it. So I can't play them. Never. I will never be able to play them. I will never have the technical proficiency to play those. And also, I kind of just can't connect to them as songs because they're kind of not them. So it's like, I guess I'll learn the standards, the things I know as standards, like the songs, the Great American Songbook, those really good songs,
Yeah.
and like I'll learn to play those and like at my own pace. I have to connect to them as songs first.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Even like in like a writing standpoint, like you really got to like write a song that you connect with. If you're writing a song and it's like you can't connect with it, you're just writing it to write something, then you're not going to want to play it. I mean, there's definitely songs that I've written that I just don't connect with anymore, so I don't play them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, although like when I'm writing stuff, it's like I spend so much time doing this, and it's like, oh, and then if I get the feeling I don't like it, it's like, it's.
Yeah, it takes me forever to write a song. Like my first song, Fire, was the quickest song I ever wrote on the album because I had a deadline.
Yep.
I came in with the 4 other songs, and it was suggested that you need to have like there's like certain like numbers on an album that like just sound good, and it was like you can't have 4 songs on an album, you need 5, and you need an upbeat song, so maybe write one more song. So I was sent home with having to write a song, and I was like, like it's fine, like we haven't quite finished this one yet, and we still have some stuff to do on this one, we haven't recorded the voice yet for this one, so I was like, oh, I have time. Well, all the other things that had to be done got done really quick. Like it was quicker than expected. So then all of a sudden it's like, shoot, I have to have this song like the next time I go to the studio. and I didn't have anything. So and it was like maybe a week. So I was like, all right, I really got to sit down and write this song. And, I think because I was like, all right, I got to write a song. It just like came to me and like that was it. And I think like in the moment and like how I was feeling, it was just like it came right to me. But every other song on that album, like Pretty Mask, took months because I would get so frustrated because I can sit down and create a chord progression and sing a melody like it's nothing. But then having to write lyrics, it's like, what the heck do I want to write about? What do I want to talk about in my songs? And I think half of the problem is I'm a very like introverted person, so sharing feelings is just like not what I do. So that was part of the problem. I was like, I don't know what to write about. I feel like I don't have feelings.
Yeah, like the first song I ever wrote, it was first of all, it took me like I decided because it sounded easier to write it like a standard. I'm like, cool, do that. And I spent like I gave myself not like a deadline, but like I told myself like, you're gonna write this thing. You're gonna see if you can do this. And then I spent like 3 days writing it. I'm like, cool. And then I'm like, but it's a song and these lyrics. And like when you look at a guy with an acoustic guitar, you're like, he's gonna start singing about his brother's wisdom or some shit, and like I don't want to do that. And also, I wrote this as a standard. But it's got to be like a love song or something. But I'm not a lyricist. I'm like, I just scribble this. It's like okay, and because the way it's performed and the form, it's like it doesn't sound that bad.
I mean, at least when you write an AABA, like you have 3/4 of the song done once you write the A section.
Yep.
Just like write some different lyrics. You can even have like the lyrics from the first day again in the last day. Like super simple. For me, for some reason, I just haven't done that. So I'm sitting here writing like a verse and a chorus, and then oh shoot, do I want a bridge? What do I write for the bridge? It's like all these lyrics that that have to come out, and I'm very into like rhyming them so they flow nicely. And so like I'll sit there and be like, all right, what rhymes with smile? And like I'm looking up like what rhymes with smile, and I'm like, these words work for what I want to say. So it's definitely like a process for me for like making all of the sentences flow together. And I feel like when I was first writing, I was very like upfront and like saying like I'm sad, like these are all of the feelings that I feel, and I'm still sad and it's really bad, but I'm not mad. So then it was like I gotta like maybe like write something that's like not so like, hey, like I'm sad. It's got to be more like
you gotta be more poetic than that,
metaphorically, stuff like that.
or like I don't know, like create some kind of obscure story that like it'll be hard to follow. And
yeah,
so, and like it sounds cryptic. Oh, you gotta figure out what she's saying. Like,
yeah,
it turns out like you don't know what you're doing.
And like people ask me like, oh, like what was the song about? And like some songs, like yeah, they're about my life experiences, but other songs, I feel like because I haven't had like a lot of like big life experiences that like really like affect me as a person, like I'll just write like a story about like I don't know, someone I know or like someone I saw in a movie. And it's like, just because I wrote this song doesn't mean it's about me.
No. Like, the stuff I've written, they're totally not me because like I'm trying to write standards. It's like love songs. It's like, yeah, that's not me. That's totally, I wouldn't ever say these things out loud, you know?
Yeah, and like part of the problem is I don't always want to be writing about like, oh my God, I'm in love. Oh my God, someone broke my heart. So fuck them. I don't always want to be writing about that. So now it's like I'm striving to like find other things to write about. And, I don't have any political views a lot. I don't follow politics. So it's like I can't like secretly write about politics and like the world. It's like now it's like what can I write about that doesn't show that I'm in love and doesn't show that someone broke my heart,
Well, maybe what you could do is I espouse this option whenever I talk to most of the time when I talk to people about songwriting and like the difficulty of writing lyrics is like I'm really into like Talking Heads and like the artist Beck, if you know Beck.
I think I've heard of them.
They write lyrics that are just not basically nonsense. Like, but they sound like almost coherent nonsense. And so, and like, they're just interesting phrases. And so it's like, they kind of don't mean anything, but also could mean something at the same time. And so, like, I kind of want to find a way to not have to write quote unquote real lyrics, but it's also not a poetic cop out, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know. I feel like for me, like the sentences that I'm singing, like have to like somewhat make sense, so I know what I'm singing about. I mean, like a lot of artists that I listen to now write interesting things. Like I listen to Melody Gardot, and her last album, like she has like a song about like a preacher man, but like it's like more about like the world and the state of the world today, and it's like a super cool song to think about. And she's part of the reason I want to write in AABA too, because one of her first albums was like all these songs that she wrote that are very jazzy, and she has like jazz standard sounding songs that I'm really trying to do. But even who else do I listen to? Melody Gardot has really been a big influence, just like her lyric writing. She's a great lyricist in a lot of her songs.
Yeah, and I think maybe have you ever tried like writing just straight poetry to see how that would fit?
That's what I've been trying now, is just writing like poetry, and then taking that and trying to make a song from it. Because a lot of times I would sit there and like write like a melody and everything with chords, and then it was like, all right, well then I would sit there and try to like think of something that would go with that melody, that would flow with that melody as a sentence. And I think that kind of restricted my writing a lot, because I'm writing based on the melody. Like I can't sit there and I'd be like, nah, I don't want to change it because this sounds good like this. So the new thing now for writing is writing the lyrics first, and then trying to like create music that goes with what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, there's lots of conflicting opinions about like people who say, oh, I need the melody is most important, like the words come later. I just want to be able to get a melody and then I'll fit words on it. And there's sometimes people who say like you need something to go off of. Like you need to like write some words, put that on paper, and see if you can glean something from that. If something jumps out to you, the way it's spoken, maybe that can inform like a melodic fragment, and you can go from there.
Yeah, that was like I took a music business class, and I met the drummer for the band that sings I forgot what they sing. I think it was Closing Time.
Oh, Semisonic.
Yes. So I met the drummer. We did like a FaceTime masterclass with him, and I asked him, because I was really struggling at the time with writing. I was like, like, what do you do when you want to write a song? And I explained to him, like, usually like I go to the piano and sit at the piano and write. And he was like, no, you can't do that. And I was like, okay. He was like, you gotta like go for a walk and just write while you're walking, like think of something and then go to the piano and do it. And I was like, all right, like, yeah, but I don't know. That's another thing. I can't just like go on a walk and like come up with something.
I think the idea is to, like, when you're working on something and you have a brain fart, is like go do something else, like do something else that's like not particularly mentally engaging, or like go take a shower, and then you'll like your brain will still be working on that task in the background, and then at some point it'll come back up, or it'll give you something. You're like, oh, that's it, because you need to like not focus on the thing while you're doing the thing.
Well, yeah, that's like a lot of times, like if I get frustrated on a song, I'll just like stop working on it and I'll walk away from it. But then because I know that I'll get frustrated again on it, I won't touch it for like a week or two. And I think it's a good thing in a sense, because like you're letting the song breathe and letting it air out. But then I don't want to work on it anymore because I just know I'm going to get frustrated again.
Yeah. Yeah, like I don't know. Like if I'm writing something, I don't ever want to write a bad song. So if I ever like do like a first draft and then I'm like, this is kind of terrible, I only ever want the output to be like batting 1,000. So it's like I'm gonna rework it, rewrite it until it's good, because I just don't want to have bad things that I know I wrote laying about, because I don't want to look at them like that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that was like, I'm a big fan of Amy Winehouse, and I've watched a lot of her documentaries, and I watched this one on the making of her album. I think it was Back to Black, and she was talking about how one of her songs, she recorded it, but she still worked on it afterwards, because she felt like the words were never quite right for the song.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I like finished my songwriting class, my professor came up to me and he's like, "You're not done with that song Fly to You yet, are you?" And I was like, I thought I was. He's like, you gotta keep working on it. I was like, what more can I add to that song, you know? Like, I was content with the lyrics. Like, people like came up to me in the class and they were like, yeah, like those lyrics like were like really great, and like your chord progressions and everything were great. No, my professor was like, you got to keep working on it. You got to make it better. And I was like, well, I'm happy with it.
I don't know. There's like whenever I talk to people about things like this, what comes to my mind is like this quote from Leonardo da Vinci that's where he says, "Art is never finished, only abandoned." And there's a point when you work on something so much that the quality diminishes, because you're spending so much time on this one part, and then you forget to like look at the big picture and see if it actually works. So it's like, I don't know, I think I would side more with you in that argument between you, or not argument, but conflict between you and your professor. Like if you think it's, I mean, fine, or like if you spent, I would say, a good amount of time on it. It's like, if you feel like it's done, then whatever,
Yeah, I mean, like all my songs off the album, like I'm like content with them. Like I feel like the recordings really brought them to life. I mean, sitting there on the piano, it was just like, all right, this is me singing and playing a song I wrote. And I think recording them and getting all those extra instruments in on them really brought them to life and really made me like content with the songs. Like I'm not going to go sit there and rewrite one of the songs, because I'm happy with how they came out. I was happy with the lyrics because I spent so much time on lyrics, and I'm happy with how they are, and I'm going to keep performing them the same way they are because I like them.
Yeah, and I don't know. There's still stuff like I spent a lot of time on, and then I still kind of not happy with, but then you don't want to work on them anymore, and so it's like, it's, I still don't want it to be there because I don't like it, but it's like I still have it. It's do you have songs like that laying around that like you might have like written for the record, but then you left them off because like you just still weren't happy with them?
Yeah, there's definitely songs that I've written that I feel like I would focus on them so much, or like I'd write something and I'd be like, all right, well, like this is an idea for the song, and then I'd be like, but I don't quite like the way the sentence ends, or I don't quite like the way I I don't quite like the chord at the end of this. But I feel like because I would keep playing it so that I would be content with it. I'd be like, oh, well, you know what? Like, this works. So I'll just leave it the way it is. But, there's still like, I still think in the back of my head, like, I didn't like this at first.
Yeah, I guess, maybe I'm just terrible at writing.
Oh, no.
You always have that to fall back on. Just say you're terrible. It's like, I suppose, well, do you think they're still worth it though? Like, say you spent time writing them. That's that amount of time you've had, quote unquote, practicing writing, and like you're still better coming out the other side.
I mean, there's definitely songs that I've started. I was like, oh, this is a good idea. And then I just kind of like abandoned them. And I was like, I don't know if I really like them. And I was told if you write a song, and not that I completely stand by this, but like someone once told me, if you write a song and you can't remember it the next day when you come back to it, then it's not worth it. And I was like, geez, I mean, you know how many times I write stuff on the piano and then I have to record it because the next day I'll go and play it and I'm like, what did I play? But I mean, I definitely don't always stand by that, but I think it's true in some cases.
Yeah. I think, like, since I also have kind of a terrible memory for the things I come up with, everything I quote unquote write, I notate it, because like that's basically how I learn music, like looking at lead sheets and stuff. So it's like if I write it, I'm pretty sure if I have it there, then that's how I'm gonna remember it. But I don't know. I guess you could say, like, all the time you spend writing something and then you find yourself dissatisfied with it because you don't like how it came out is experience, in the sense that you spent time figuring out melodies you don't like. Yeah. And that means you have the cognitive ability to sense that, oh, I know I don't like that. I'm going to try to do something better.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, I like to physically write down what I write, and like I'll write like it looks like chicken scratch. Like there's like lyrics like in this corner, and then like little notes in the other corner, and like things are upside down, and like you see
drawing
like,
of a duck in the middle is
yeah. Like if I was to like share it with someone, like you know how like people like sell like their handwritten stuff for their songs, people would like look at it and be like, well, what the heck was she thinking? And like scribbles everywhere. And of course, like I enjoy writing in pen, so like there's like things like scribbled out and nothing is erased. But yeah, I always think like if like I write something and I end up not liking it, you know, at least I tried it, and I'm always like trying to like look for different ways to improve it. But at the end of the day, if I don't like it, you know, at least like I tried my idea and I tried to make it sound good. And it's just a lesson that I gotta, you know, just stop working on it and try something else.
Yeah. And just to close up, you put out your EP called Just the Beginning back in August. Mm-hmm. I think. And what was the overall? How would you describe the experience working on it and working with Tracy?
It was a great experience. I think the whole process was definitely a very creative experience, and looking at the whole road of coming in and just having these songs where I would play them on the piano and sing them for Tracy so that he could kind of get an idea of what I was thinking, and then taking them and pretty much bringing them to life. I mean, all the songs, there was a lot of things that Tracy suggested to me that I never would have thought of for the songs. Like Fire turned into this pop song that like people look at me and they're like, why the frick are you writing pop songs? I mean, and like it was like he was like, let's like make it like a Stevie Wonder type thing. Like think of like flowers with faces on them smiling and being happy, which is not me at all. You know, like, and the music video for it was also not me at all, because he's like, it needs to be like vibrant and like you skipping down a field with flowers and like you are the happiest person in the world. And I felt like a complete idiot running around this park with no shoes on. It's still cold out and I'm in this like strap dress, And like every time we took a break, I'm like grabbing a blanket, like I'm so cold. But I mean, overall, the experience was great. I mean, all of the song, Tracy really helped me bring the songs really far along, and I'm really grateful to have been able to work with him. And all his knowledge on music that added to it, and him playing all the different instruments and bringing in people to be additions to each song was really great. And I definitely look forward to working with him more in the future.
So maybe this is too soon to ask, but do you have ideas for like other songs, and like do you think you're gonna start recording again soon?
Yeah, so I when I met with Tracy again a couple weeks ago, which was kind of more of just like a follow up, hey, how's the album doing, all that. I already mentioned to him that I want to do a full album of like a good 8 songs that are all just originals. And I'm still in the process of writing for that album, but it's already an idea, and it's just like a matter of finishing the songs that I want for the album and then taking them to Tracy to start working on them. But definitely, like, I'm hoping like in another like year and a half or so, because believe it or not, recording 5 songs was a long process that started in November of last year. And I mean, COVID did mess it up, but yeah, I'm hoping like in another year and a half, like I'll be able to release a full 8-track album with all originals.
Cool.
Yeah.
And when I contacted you about being on the show, first of all, have you ever been on a podcast before?
No, this is the first.
Cool. First, you heard it here first, guys. And you said you checked out the most recent episode that had Andrew Wilcox on it.
Yes.
Or did that give you like a feel for what this was going to be like, or?
Yeah, definitely. And I think what really stood out to me to help me know what to expect was when you said something in the beginning about how like your vision for the podcast when you first started it was 2 people sitting at a table just having a conversation. And I think I kind of like came in like expecting like just 2 people having a conversation. That was exactly what this was, and it's definitely like you get a little nervous, like being on a podcast with someone you never met before, like what the frick are you 2 gonna talk about? But yeah, I think that really like set the bar for what to expect,
And were you able to check out the other episode Andrew was on? That one was fun.
No, I want to though, because then you mentioned, because I noticed the title was Andrew Wilcox Returns, and I was like, all right, when was he on this before? But I have to listen to it. I listened to the recent one on my car ride home from Hartt yesterday, but I definitely need to check out the other one too. You said it's like kind of a different experience having him in person versus having him
on a goddamn Zoom call.
Oh my god, Zoom ruins everything. I had a masterclass over Zoom. I have my voice lessons over Zoom. It's like this is the new norm.
Yeah, it's because when I did first start, it was supposed to be always in person, always, because like the energy of being in person, having a conversation, is like what I strive for. And I mean, I guess it's close enough,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like felt like this whole time we were just like sitting here having a conversation, but it definitely could have, like, not saying like this could have been better. I think this was a great conversation that we had this time, but it definitely could have been like a different experience being like physically like in a room talking to each other.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, we've been going on for a while. I would like to thank you for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
I'm glad that we got to talk, even though it wasn't, but as I would prefer in person, but we can't do that. So, your EP, called Just the Beginning, was released back in August, not too long ago. Anyone listening to this podcast, if you got the time, you should check it out. And in the future, would you consider like coming back on?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I would love to.
All right. Like maybe if you got a new thing coming out, maybe we can talk to each other again.
Sounds good. Yeah.
All right, cool. Again, thanks for bringing it on. New thing is that the EP is out, and it was good talking to you.
Good talking to you too.
All right, bye.